Following the successful diversion the Ultramarines created, the Imperial Fists were able to scale the mountainside and appear in a direction that the Chaos Space Marines were not prepared for. The Chaos Space Marines also pulled several units out of the place, thinking this area is safe, to redirect them toward the Ultramarine incursion. This means that a powerful Imperial Fist force was able to move in on a weakened area. Now, despite both forces being roughly equal in strength, the Marines have a definite advantage. But can they displace the entrenched Chaos Space Marines? And here we go. The Imperial Fist battle force has just climbed up this imaginary slope and is just taking position to move on these buildings in the distance. These buildings represent the ruins of the city that the Imperial Fists are trying to infiltrate. Now, there are some border units, somewhat disposable Legionary squads. And behind them, hidden Havoc squads. They have been performing these ambush maneuvers in the previous recording, and they're going to try it again, because even though this is 1,000 points versus 1,000 points, the Marines do have a numerical advantage, and that might help them, especially with their large number of bolt rifles with their AP1. AP1 is often all you need to trip up someone with a 3-up save. Now, this is going to test a couple of rules that I've been testing, but one thing that I'm pretty looking forward to is the infinite range rule. This is a long distance to cover, and the victory condition is essentially that the Imperial Fists have to capture this back area. The whole back area, as well as anywhere on the ruins, not touching the side, but actually being inside the ruins, it's considered being on an objective. So these guys are always on an objective, for example. But that's the big thing, is that we have 3 Havoc squads back here that are positioned to look through the windows and downrange against the entire Imperial Fist front. So as the Imperial Fists deal with the more immediate concerns of these 3 Legionary squads and the Havoc squads that will ambush them soon, the entire time they're going to be hit by 4 chain guns here, 4 chain guns here, and 4 missile launchers here. The chain guns are especially deadly because, again, we're using infinite range, and what's really going to be interesting is that none of this terrain is going to be considered, what's the word? None of this terrain is obscuring. So, throughout the entire game, these Havoc squads are just going to unleash on anything colored in yellow. And that's due to them having unlimited range. The Havoc chain guns, I believe, are 24 inches, but I haven't looked recently. Might as well look now, though. Havoc chain cannon. Havoc Reaper chain cannon, 24 inches. They have unlimited range now. So does every other weapon, except for the following. Weapons that have a listed range of 12 or less. Weapons that have the pistol rule, the torrent rule, or the melter rule. So, tough luck, guys. You have your normal range. And any weapon that is designed to be a shotgun usually has shotgun in the title, but some weapons are definitely supposed to be shotguns but have a different name. Any shotgun has a 12-inch range. Or the listed range, I suppose. So anyway, that's mostly going to affect the Melta. They don't get unlimited range. I don't think there's anything else on the Marine side. Oh, except, well, pistols, of course. But they don't have any torrent weapons. They don't have any shotguns. And the same can mostly be said here, except for these 4 flamers here. Obviously, as torrent weapons, they're only going to be 12 inches and not unlimited. Then they have bolt pistols and plasma pistols. They all have the pistol rule, so really no raptor weapon should have unlimited range. So that's unlimited range. I'm going to be testing that, and I'm going to be seeing how abusive it is, like with these Havocs just laying into these guys the whole game. So we're going to be testing how unlimited range. Simultaneous removal, we're just going to be constantly testing that because I think there's some good in that rule, and I want to see it happen. Whenever your unit or models in the unit are reduced to 0 wounds, you turn them on their side or put a counter next to them. They're considered to be dead, and anything that triggers on death will happen then, such as deadly demise or scoring kill points or something. But they're still active, and they can be used to move and shoot and charge and fight, etc. And then at the very end of the battle round, they're removed from play. So if this unit nukes this unit at the top of the turn, on the bottom of the turn, this unit will be able to move, shoot these guys, charge them, fight them in close combat, etc. There are a couple of exemptions. Close combat attacks will remove a model instantly from the game. If my unit is being attacked and I have some models in the unit at 0 wounds, I can put close combat attack wounds onto them. For the purposes of close combat, anyone with 0 wounds is considered to have 1 wound. So besides close combat, if you do any wounds to yourself, like if I have this squad and I do anything that causes my own squad to take damage, those models are removed. They're not left out and removed at the end of the battle round. This can happen from Dark Pact being failed, or for a Traitor Enforcer to shoot one of his own guys to get a buff. In that case, you're causing one of your models to be destroyed. If you're hurting your own models in some way, they're immediately removed. That includes Hazardous, which puts 3 mortal wounds onto 1 model, and they can't spill over. They all have to go on the 1 model. That model will be removed. And speaking of which, if you are at 0 wounds, you still can shoot, but you cannot fire any weapon that is hazardous. Some weapons have 2 modes of fire, 1 hazardous, 1 not hazardous. Some weapons are always hazardous, especially on the orc side. So if you're reduced to 0 wounds, turn them on their side, put some kind of counter on them, but they cannot fire hazardous weapons anymore at that point. Alright, so I think I explained those rules in record time. I'm trying to condense down the explanation as quickly as possible, getting down the rule and the restrictions or the exemptions without trailing on for too long. So we'll see if I can't make that even better, so I can make it very concise for people so that they learn the rules quickly. So let's just jump right into the game. So we know that the Marines just need to get models into those ruins. They can walk right through the walls. They're normal ruins. Infantry can penetrate right through. There are some Marines that are in deep strike, and my ruling is they can't deep strike on or back here on the ruins or behind them anywhere, and they have to be at least 18 inches away from any wall of a ruin. So they can use deep strike to get very close, but there's, again, lots of havoc to deal with. So with that said, the Imperial Fists, they're the ones that just climbed up. They're the ones that are charging into combat, and they're catching the Chaos Space Marines on the defensive. So therefore, it's the Marines turn 1. And just really quick, Intercessor Squad, Intercessor, 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 Heavy Intercessor, Infiltrator, Desolation Squad, Eradicators, that's 1 squad, and the Prince of Space is back, represented by an EVA astronaut. Okay, this is the end of the Space Marine movement phase. Just to show you, I put the dice next to the units. They advanced 5 inches. These guys advanced 2, which is enough to just barely get them all wholly onto the top of that terrain, and I'm going to give them cover for being on the terrain. These guys just moved up, and these two advanced with this squad. This used to be behind the other squad, but with the differences of advance rolls, they were able to get slightly ahead. So they are performing a flanking stratagem, not realizing that there are enemy raptors right behind that wall. But it's only 5 of them. The Marines outnumber them. On this side is where it gets a little more interesting. We have a battery of very powerful weapons, powerful versus power armored foes or heavy infantry. So we're going to have some gunfire going on over here. These guys are probably going to take some fire. And these guys are probably just about where they need to be. We'll generally be putting fire into these Legionary squads because we don't want them getting into close combat. And we also don't want them casting spells because they are Legionary squads with aspiring sorcerers. And then, of course, there's this defensive line here, which will move over and charge when they get the chance. So we'll see how it goes. But first, Marine shooting phase. We'll have these two shooting down, these advanced, and then we'll have these shooting here and here. Okay, we're at the end of the Marine shooting phase. These heavy weapon squads were able to put some decent damage onto these units. Here there's only one aspiring sorcerer left. Here there's a legionary with an autocannon and an aspiring sorcerer. And this squad is fine. These guys slung a lot of shots at that squad back there. They didn't really do much, as you can see. Everyone else advanced, so they couldn't shoot. There are no charges, no fighting yet, so the Marine turn is finished. So we're starting with Chaos Space Marine turn 1. So due to simultaneous removal, these models that were killed are not actually dead yet. They will function as normal living members of the unit, and they can even fight in close combat if they want to. At the end of the battle round, in other words, at the end of this turn, anyone who's turned on their side as part of simultaneous removal will be removed. Alright, on to Chaos Space Marine turn 1. Not a whole lot happened. Chaos Space Marines are taking to the craters for cover. Cover is very useful when dealing with weapons like bolt rifles. Again, just 1 AP on your 3-up save can cause a squad to start taking serious casualties. This unit has also opted to move into the cover. If I was playing with someone else, I would tell people that my intent was for these 3 guys that are turned on their side to be in the crater. Because you'll see that there's a couple parts that are outside of the crater. You kind of have to picture like a little base drawn on the, roughly where their bases are. Or bodies. As long as you work it out with your opponent, it should be fine. These guys are hoping to at least have this aspiring sorcerer alive for next turn so he can climb up here and immediately act with these guys. But for right now, they're just moved forward to get into a better position. Alright, so now we're going to have Chaos Space Marine shooting phase. We're going to see Havocs in the distance firing on all this stuff. And we're also going to see 3 aspiring sorcerers casting spells. Chaos Space Marine shooting phase turn 1. Just to give you an idea of why Havoc chain guns are useful, you can see this squad is getting chewed apart. That was just 1 chain gun squad going into them. Here's the next one. Number of attacks. Alright. Hitting on 3s. So many I had to take extra dice out just to do them all at once. It's actually not as impressive because I'm rolling lots of 2s. But if these were, say, veterans of the Long War, they could always make them an oath target and re-roll all these hits. Strength 5 versus Tough 5. Wounding on 5s. Or wounding on 4s, sorry. Not 5s. Another good thing, having +1 from normal. No AP, so just 3-up saves. And they actually made them this time. Before, it was just they were getting plinked away. It was just so many hits wounding on 4s that their 3-up saves just kept failing them. But even at 3 wounds each, half the squad was killed. And we had one squad here killed by a crack missile. They actually got off lucky. There should have been 2 kills, but one of the dice rolled a 1 to wound. Or, I'm sorry, a 1 on damage. So I cut off the sergeant because he doesn't have a super crack launcher. So I still have 4 super cracks. But yeah, over here, these guys actually packed quite a punch. Between Warpsmith, supercharged plasma gun, and the balefire tome, I was able to take out 2.5 members of the 5-man intercessor squad. So they definitely measure up. And I'm probably charging. So let's do that live, just for now. 7. Let's see what 7 is. Yep, 7 does it. This squad is going to try to charge up and over. They'll need a pretty long roll. And they fail to charge, so they're not going anywhere. This squad is going to try to charge these injured guys. They are able to move up, except they only rolled a 5. So they can't make it, but they would be able to end up in base contact even with this guy. Again, we gotta pretend there's some kind of base there and have some understanding with your opponent. Everyone's ignoring the Prince of Space. I wonder why. Anyway, that was the shooting phase and the charge phase. So we're moving on to fights. Okay, the Chaos Space Marines are done with the fight phase. As you can see, they wiped out this unit, and I forgot that close combat kills were an exemption. They did do 1 to him, so yeah, that's actually how it looks now. No one actually put any wounds onto him, but everyone else took wounds. So it was a pretty heavy hit. The Legionary squads are pretty good at close combat, and having a aspiring sorcerer leading was really helpful. So now it's just an intercessor fighting back. One wound, saved. So they didn't do anything back. And that's the end, because no one else is able to get charges off. So at the end of the Chaos Space Marine turn, we see we're taking a look at the end of the first battle round. Some progress is made. And at the end of the battleground, we will remove anyone that is on their side. That includes almost everyone in this squad. These guys got thinned out. Alright, so this is how it looks. Legionaries did get chewed up, and the remaining Legionaries are probably going to die, but they're doing exactly what they're supposed to. They're buying time for the rest of the army. These Raptors don't even need to do anything yet. Because honestly, with the 10th edition fly rules, you can only really get to the other side of these rocks and then charge from there. So they're waiting until there's a better opportunity. But there will be one. So beginning of next battle round, Marine turn 2 movement phase. So the Marine movement phase is over. The Marine stratagem, you can tell here, is to flank the enemy. There doesn't seem, from this vantage point, to be any enemy movement in that area. Movements are being coordinated by the infiltrator squad atop this rock here. They've moved up. They can see the aspiring sorcerer down below. The front two can see him. Lots of Gravis armor, guys. The remainder of this squad has moved into cover, and this heavy intercessor squad is probably going to move along this path, potentially winding this way, and then going through that door. And these guys are just going to sit back because they're going to draw fire the whole game, and they are actually going to be useful for a short time to deliver heavy damage to these units. So the name of the game in this turn is to do a little more damage to these squads, and hopefully a lot more to this one. And then certain other units can focus on other things, like taking out those Havocs. Alright, Marine shooting phase, turn 2. Okay, end of the Marine shooting phase. We were able to take down these guys, so per simultaneous removal, they are on their sides and waiting for the end of the battle round. They can still shoot, etc. This dude obviously went down too. And while only the front two could see him, these guys participated in this fight here, where only 2 were taken down and there's 3 left. I'm considering whether or not to charge. Initially, they would do some damage. But this guy, I don't think they have enough to do 6 wounds with just punches and kicks. And this guy would slice them to pieces. But if I do nothing, they're going to shoot and charge at full strength. So I'm thinking I'm going to charge them. I won't do the actual combat live, but as you can see, the charge was successful. And, you know what? I think these guys are going to charge too. They need the extra movement. They're going to charge that, this guy here, who is technically still alive. They got a 9, and that definitely is 9. So I'm going to make the charge moves, and then catch you up after a close combat. So, as you can see, the Marines were only able to take out 1 guy. He got removed immediately because it was a close combat wound, so no simultaneous removal. And I thought I'd save this for you guys. So he still has to attack, but with these guys just doing punches and kicks, these are the wound rolls. Actually, it looks like those are the wound rolls. Alright, he has to fail. Since he's on his side, he's only treated as having 1 wound. And that was enough. 1 failed save. So, the aspiring sorcerer in this area does not get to fight back. And I don't think that's 3 inches. As far as piling in goes. Yeah, that would get them within an inch. Sure, they'll take some close combat damage, but anything to get them down the board. And potentially with some protection of being in combat. Alright, so now I'm going to do this Legionary unit with Aspiring Sorcerer, and this Legionary unit with Aspiring Sorcerer, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so we saw 3 guys die in close combat to this unit. The force weapon is nasty, as well as the chain swords in the squad. And over here, everyone whiffed, including the force weapon, so no one took any damage. So that's the end of the Marine turn 2. So now we're moving on to Chaos Space Marine turn 3. The front lines aren't going to change too much, but probably what we're going to see is these guys fall back. Not sure what'll happen here. These guys likely getting ambushed, and these guys likely getting ambushed. And all the while, these guys will keep piling in their shots. Remember, with this particular build of Havocs, 2 of those squads have 4 Havoc missile launchers. Or I'm sorry, not Havoc missiles. 2 of them have Havoc Reaper chain cannons. Each gun has 8 shots. Now, maybe strength 5 with no AP and 1 damage, but 32 shots, that's quite a lot. Alright, so we're moving on. Or 36. Yeah. And the trap is sprung. These raptors are a little bit outnumbered. And all they really have is 3 plasma pistols and just lots of chainswords. And a little power fist. Right there. That blue-haired individual. So they can do some damage, but they're not going to remove all the models here. But they're basically a speed bump. This is a little more significant. We have 4 flamers, a plasma pistol and power fist on the sergeant, and then 5 chainsword guys. That should do something, even though we're wounding on 5s. Speaking of which, I did not fall back. These guys are going to stay there, and they're going to fight. Wait, you know what? Even as I say that, I realize what I've done. I kind of need those flamers to do some damage, so we are going to fall back. And the only casualty I've had up here so far is this aspiring champion from the Havoc squad. He was taken out by a missile, I believe. So he's on his side, and at the end of the battle round, he'll be removed. This is the squad that's going to be difficult to kill. Weapons that ignore cover don't work on them because of a rule that this guy has. He's an aspiring Warpsmith. So ignores cover, doesn't work on them. And they enemy units subtract 1 from the AP of weapons they fire. So the heavy weapons back here that are getting fired into here are going to come up against some significant defenses. Although here, this is an identical squad without a squad leader. They could continue to fire here and take out some guns, because each of those guns is 8 attacks. Or go back there and hit the crack missiles. So, anyway, that's Marine turn stuff. It's currently the Chaos Space Marine turn, and we're going right into the shooting phase, and we're going to see what these flamers do to these Gravis armor guys. Now, if I was actually playing this out in a real game, I would use the Let the Galaxy Burn, I believe it's called, stratagem, where I believe it's each flamer that's in a non-Tzeentch unit has 6 attacks instead of d6. Anyway, these were the wound rolls against the heavy intercessors. You can see only 5s are wounding. So 3-up saves. So they failed 2. Now I already did 2 here with a supercharged plasma pistol, and hazardous didn't kill the guy off. So 1 guy is down, and the next guy takes a wound. I think this is the heavy bolter. Yeah. Okay. Let's just do the plasma pistols here just to see what'll happen. They'll go against this unit, the one on the right, my right. 3 plasma pistols. 3 hits. Strength 8 versus tough 4, wounding on 2s. Nice. AP minus 3, need 6s. No 6s, so that's 2, 4, 6. And 1 hazardous mishap. Now, the way that the rules were reworded is that you roll all the hazardous together, and then you can allocate the wounds to any model that has a weapon with hazardous. So since all three of these guys have hazardous, I'll put it on this guy, which means he takes 3 mortal wounds that don't spill over. They only go onto him. And since he has no way of negating those mortal wounds, he dies. And because simultaneous removal has an exemption, if I wound my own unit, they die outright. So he's not going on his side. He's removed from the game because of hazardous. And then there's 2 bolt ones. And they both miss. Alright, so I have some other small things to do, and then we'll go right into combat. Okay, this is going to be a big combat. Everyone just kind of shuffled up. And the Raptors are going first, so let's see what happens. So you can see the board state right here. We have 1 guy on his side, which counts as having 1 wound if he has any wounds put onto him or allocated to him during the fight phase. And 1 dude has 1 wound remaining. This guy right here. So let's find out. They removed 2 models and did 1 wound to 1 of the guys. So we now have 3 survivors, not including the guy that goes away at the end of the battle round, and the captain. But this guy who's on his side, he will be able to pile in and fight back. And then at the end of the battle round, he'll be removed. So that was the big attack from the big Raptor unit. Now we'll do the small attack. And after this Raptor squad, we're down to the sergeant and 1 guy with 1 wound. So decent results from the combats, but they're not going to be sustainable, at least not in this side. For example, the sergeant here, the intercessor sergeant, has a power fist. And I made my save, so the other intercessor okay, apparently I do nothing to these guys. So it looks like I accidentally drew the other squad in, so they'll get to pile in. And I'll roll really quick for them. And the Raptors weren't entirely wounded. We lost a model and someone has a wound left, so now we have 1.5 Raptors here. They'll probably disappear on the Space Marine turn. We'll find out, but there's 2 Power Fists in here, so they probably accomplished their goal just by being a speed bump, stopping this advance, and not allowing them to just keep doing advance rolls all the way up until they get to the end. Yeah, they're probably going to get shot with pistols and then beaten to death with Power Fists. Over here, I actually didn't roll over here, but it's not going to matter that much. We did 1 wound, which I'm going to allocate to a guy that was turned on his side because of simultaneous removal. In close combat, anyone who's on their side is at 1 wound remaining. So he's removed. And I didn't fight back here. The captain's actions are actually what I'm really concerned about. So I'll quickly do the I'll do the whole thing off camera. Basically, we killed all the flamers. So pile in will occur. And then we're at the end of the battle round, so these guys are removed. These guys are removed. This dude's removed. And that's it. So over here, this is how it currently looks. Not a great situation for the heavy intercessors, but the captain, it has a master-crafted power weapon. He did just carve up a bunch of guys with really no problem. So things are going well there. Here, these guys, they have some very powerful shooting attacks, but they're not going to last very long. The Havocs are just going to keep chewing them up until they're gone. And this distraction is working. The speed bumps are working. So by the time they defeat those, we're going to have a lot of wounded squads. And, you know, again, the Havocs are going to do a lot of damage. All right, so we're done with the battle round. Everything's been removed. And now we're moving on to Marine turn 3 movement phase. Not a lot has happened. Everyone who's in combat is staying in combat. These infiltrators advanced 4 inches. That was enough to get them there. These guys moved up, but they're staying in cover. They did not advance, even though advancing would have got them closer. As it is, they're not quite close enough to shoot these Havoc squads. But they're a little safer on the cover, since they only have 3-up saves, despite being in Gravis armor. That's the Achilles heel of Gravis armor. These guys stood still, so they're hitting on 3s. Not much else to say. I was looking into deep striking, but certain things need to die first. These need to go. These need to go. These things are also causing a problem. I couldn't find anywhere important enough to teleport into or to deep strike into, especially since I'm have to maintain a certain distance away from the buildings for fairness' sake. So I'm gonna have to deep strike on turn 3. Meanwhile, we do have some things to do on turn 3 or on turn 2 rather. We're done with movement, so we're going to move on to shooting. There is some good news. This guy was taken down by a pistol shot, and these guys managed to land 2 shots that led to 2 failed saves. We have 2 guys in the process of biting it, and we also have 1 wound on this guy. So this squad is definitely being taken down, but they'll still be able to fire with all 4 in the Chaos Space Marine shooting phase. So I fired with everything, including pistols, and now it's down to melee. So we're going into the fight phase. As predicted, these guys were toasted. This remains thus, even though this sergeant has a power fist, even though he's not equipped with one physically, he has one in his stats, and he was only able to take out the other guy. We weren't able to put anyone on the aspiring sorcerer, but the aspiring sorcerer also whiffed with his force weapon. So these guys are locked as they are. Hopefully something will happen to change the situation in the Chaos Space Marine turn 2. This is the result of this. So we have 1 final member of the bodyguard unit with 1 wound remaining, and the captain, versus 4 of these Havocs. Now, we should be able to, with everyone combined, do something to them. So we'll see what happens. But it's the Chaos Space Marine turn. And I forget if I showed you, but in the shooting phase, yeah, I'm pretty sure I showed you this. This is what happened to the Havocs. So they're not gonna, they're still gonna be able to shoot back with all of their firepower, but then those 2 guys are getting removed at the end of the battle round. So, moving on to Chaos Space Marine turn 2. Chaos Space Marine shooting phase is done. We were able to take down the wounded guy. He shouldn't be able to do anything because simultaneous removal. We're almost at the end of the battle round. He'll be removed then. since I'm not rolling anything I'm not using any command points like a Fire Overwatch, for example. That's one way the Marines could still use a guy that's turned on his side, but the Havocs focused on these guys. They didn't like that they were almost coming into range of the buildings, and these guys kill heavy armor, and guess what? These guys are heavy infantry, so they focus them down. Lots and lots and lots of Reaper chain cannon shots. Not much else happened. So we're going to move into combat. No charges, because everyone's already in combat. So we have this combat here. So this, the heavy bolter, heavy intercessor guy, he is treated as having 1 wound for close combat. So I might start off with the chain swords just to put 1 wound on this guy and get rid of him. And then this is the other combat, which probably the sergeant is going to clean up. He gets 3 attacks with his power fist. So we'll see what happens. All right. So Chaos Space Marine fight phase. The Gravis captain ate the raptors for breakfast. He killed all 4 of them on his own. He had 1 bodyguard guy and who had one wound remaining because he was down for simultaneous removal. 2 chainswords got through, so 1 got through to the bodyguard, and the bodyguard was gone, and 1 went into the leader, so he's down to 5 wounds. And then he just wrecked everything. Over here, the Marines are unharmed, and the Power Fist swung really well. 3 wounds, all 3 failed saves. That was 6 damage to a 2 damage aspiring champion, or aspiring sorcerer. Anyway, he's dead. So that clears up everything. This side, there are no more raptors. All 3 of the Legionary squads are finally dead. And the 10-man raptor squad is dead. So the main concern here is taking out the Havocs. But first, at the end of the battle round, we remove this guy and whatever that 3 was doing there. We remove these 2. Sorry, guys. And we remove these 2, who did get to shoot and did contribute a lot to damage. So there's one of these guys has a wound left on him. So the rest of this game is going to go pretty fast, since we're just going to be allocating and just moving forward, shooting, moving forward. Marine turn 3 will be a little bit interesting because we'll have the suppressors come in. They'll find a good place, probably up here, where they'll have cover and line of sight to any of the ruins they want. They do have infinite range, but their autocannons are already pretty good range, so we'll see what happens. Can the Marines, the remaining Marines, make it into the ruins and deal with the Havocs? That's going to be the rest of the game. So we're starting Marine turn 3. I don't predict this will take very long, so here we go. Marine turn 3, movement phase. The Marines are largely foregoing a shooting phase to get more people closer to the buildings. Once they're near the buildings, they can do normal moves and fire some shots up at these Havocs. But for right now, we just needed distance. Leading the way are the infiltrators. We have a single sergeant here. We have a full intercessor squad here. Forgot to move these guys. They're moving 10 inches. Anyway, you can also see this is where the suppressors jumped in. 1 second. Okay, their advance took them over here where they're staying inside the crater to get some cover. These guys remaining stationary. And the captain is running this way. So here's what we're looking at. We have 15 Chaos Space Marines to kill. This turn we're mainly closing, but we also will have shots fired from here and here. The biggest problem right now is that the Marines have vulnerabilities. This guy is going to be fired upon. Luckily, he does reduce damage that comes to him. He's a Gravis captain, and they can be scary on their own. But if they just pelt him with 32 Reaper chain cannon shots, then he's just going to go down immediately. We also have a lone sergeant here. He's toast. In addition, 2 intercessors. So there are a lot of weak points that the Chaos side can take advantage of. So right now on the Marine turn, the 2 units that can slingshots across the board are going to do what they can to damage the squads. And probably we're going to focus this one down. Because it's still, every single chain cannon we kill is a benefit. And in addition, if we shoot at these ones are harder to kill because of the character that has joined them. And they also have a champion. Champion is just a wonderful 2-wound model that can die and not penalize the squad at all. So, except in the normal game where, you don't want to have damaged units because a lot of rules give you penalties or give you benefits to attacking and damage units. So there is that, but otherwise, everyone knows for a Devastator squad or for a Havoc squad, the Sergeant goes first. He's just got a bolt gun usually. These guys are going to be a big threat because crack missiles love taking down power armor. So once these guys are cleared, these guys will take fire, and we'll probably save the rest for these guys because, again, they're harder to kill, and we'd rather take out some of this offense before we actually work on the hard unit. So, Marine shooting phase, turn 3, 3 suppressors, and 3 desolators into the squad. Go. Since the Marines advance, they're only able to shoot with the suppressors and the desolators. Desolators took out one of the remaining Havocs. He'll still be able to shoot on the Chaos Space Marine turn. And the suppressors, I realized, they can suppress a unit that they hit. So basically what happened there is that I had them target all 3 Havocs. I had them target, each gun targeted a different Havoc squad. No actual damage was done, but I scored a hit on this squad and a hit on that squad. And I decided I have to pick one of them, so I'm going to select this Havoc squad with the missile launchers. They are now suppressed, so they have -1 to hit. So, I don't have any charges to do, so we're going to go right into the Chaos Space Marine turn 3, and in fact, we're going to go right into shooting. So let's see what these Havocs have in store for these very vulnerable Marine deployments. The Chaos Space Marines are showing signs of folding. This missile squad was, because of being suppressed by these guys, only landed 2 hits, failed to wound on one, and the other one, the guy passed a save. No harm done. Now the remaining Havocs, the chain gun here fired into this captain, and he was reduced to 2 wounds. 1 more salvo, and that captain is gone. And these chain guns, these 4, decided that these infiltrators were too close for comfort. So they put all their shots, all 32, into these guys, and they killed 2.5. But luckily, we have Helix gauntlets. So 1 Feel No Pain was made, and so 2 guys are down, and the 3rd guy is fine. That's it for Chaos. Chaos is pretty much only going to have shooting phases from now on, until Marines get close enough to charge. So that's it for the Chaos turn, so we can remove the only models that really needed to be removed. Of course, over here we have 1. It's going to be annoying dealing with just 1 gunner here. Alright, so we're going into Marine turn 4. Some of them are close enough that they can actually get into the buildings. If they can get on the first floor, that would be great, because it'll be trickier for the Havocs to actually do something. If they're a floor below the Havocs, Havocs can move around and shoot, but it'll make things trickier. And it looks like it's definitely happening. We have people pretty close, and even an advance roll would be fine. So we'll see what happens. Regular Space Marines, movement phase, turn 4. Marines mostly opted to advance, as you can see here, and the captain rolled a poor advance roll and is just outside. Now these guys I have yet to place, so I'll do it now. I was on the other side of the board, so I couldn't put them where they ended up. They got a good advance roll, and they were already close to the building. So they're going to end up just underneath. Just enough to be a pain in the ass for the Havocs up top. That's what we have inside the building. Of course, the usual suspects remain stationary. That means these guys hit on 3s this turn. And we're going to see about actually killing some Havocs this turn. This unit didn't advance, so we're going to see some bolt gun shots and see what that can do. Alright, Marine shooting phase, turn 4. The Marines did a pretty good job. They took out the final Havoc, although he will get to shoot in the Chaos Space Marine turn. This squad has been largely ignored because it's so hard to kill. And this unit not only took an autocannon hit, which killed the aspiring champion, but they also, just from bolt gun shots, lost 1.5 guys. So they will have their full strength for one more turn, but then these two are going in the trash heap. But that's the extent of what the Marines can do. No one can charge yet. There was a lot of advancing, so there's really no opportunities for charges. So we're moving on to Chaos Space Marine, turn 4, skipping straight to the shooting phase, and then we'll skip down to the end phase. The Chaos Space Marines wisely decided to split fire. Captain, dead. Lone Sergeant, dead. 2-man squad, dead. These guys, didn't touch them. Finally, took out yet another one of these guys. Every time we wound the squad, we reduce its effectiveness, and we're happy about that. The bigger concern is removing infantry from this area, and that's going to be very dangerous for this squad. So we'll see what happens in the next Marine turn. But for right now, we're at the end phase, so we're removing him. We're removing everyone due to simultaneous removal, everyone who was taken out. We're removing this dude here. And these two here. So we have a very diminished force here, but you can say the same about the Loyalist Marines. So we're in a situation now where it's very evident that this is a balanced deployment. You have 1,000 points of Imperial Fists and 1,000 points of Chaos Space Marines, and it's coming down to just a few units. This is all we really have. We have a full Intercessor squad that hasn't been touched yet. Ditto for the suppressors. And these guys, just stray crack missiles, keep taking them down. We need to get at least one unit into the ruins or behind. So far, no one... Well, actually, we have had one squad do that. As the Chaos Space Marine player, I completely forgot that these guys are down here. And technically, that is satisfying the winning condition. So we'll see what we can do, because I think I might be able to run some interference with these guys. Alright, we're into Marine turn 5. Let's see if we can clean this up by the end of turn 5. So, I recalled what these guys did when they used their rifles on the Havoc squad, so instead of advancing with them, I had them move up and shoot. In addition, I had this unit shoot that unit as well. And the end result, only one guy left, although all three of them will be able to sling missiles on these Chaos Space Marine turn 5. But then there'll just be one Havoc left here, no Havocs here, and I decided to get ahead of myself and do a charge move, and bam. These guys are going to be toast, but they're going to tie up this unit. Hopefully they don't die. There's not, I mean, this guy has a lot of close combat effectiveness. It's mostly about getting him in there, getting him within or touching the base of someone who's within combat range. Shouldn't be a problem. He's on a small base. Technicalities aside, I might just rearrange things because, again, this is supposed to be a narrative game, so if the base sizes and the system get in the way of allowing that unit to be useful, I'll make some changes. So anyway, we're gonna go into the fight phase now at this point, and we're gonna see if these guys can survive and tie up this unit for a turn. To give a quick review of the close combat stats, we have 2 weapons. One has extra attacks. Forge weapon, anti-vehicle isn't doing anything, and server arm got to attack again as well. So we had 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, AP -2, 2 damage. That was enough to both of those wounds went onto one person. But remember, we have a Feel No Pain 6+, and I did roll a 6, so one guy took a wound. And then this servo arm managed to hit, wound, fail save, and one guy took 3 damage, and he's just dead now. And let's see, who do we remove? This guy. So this is where we're at. Well, I forgot to pile in, but roughly like this. But on the Chaos Space Marine turn, if they can, they're going to have to fall back to allow... Actually, no one else can see these guys, so they're going to have to stay in combat and hope that the aspiring Warpsmith can get in enough wounds to kill the rest of the squad. So, at the bottom of turn 5, there's only one squad that can shoot, and that's 3 missile launchers. So, here we go. Chaos Space Marines, bottom of turn 5. And this was the fastest turn in history. Only 1 unit to shoot, and because they were the target of the suppressors, and the suppressors chose one target they shot at to be the suppressed target, they were suppressed and they're hitting on 4s, so they failed. And we're going right into... Actually, I don't remember if they have bolt pistols, but let's just give them bolt pistols. What the hell? I don't know if they come with them or not, and I don't feel like looking it up. Alright, 2 wounds on the infiltrators. Do I get a 6-up? No. The, the Helix Gauntlet does not helix. It fails to helix. So that's shooting phase. There's 1.5 guys there. So I'm just going to skip right over to the aspiring Warpsmith. Not looking good so far. Alright, 2 wounds, AP -2, 5 ups, 2 fails. And that's, we have 2 guys, so here's, this is on the guy that has 1 wound. Fails both, so he's dead. And this is on the guy that has 2 wounds. He passes. So the only remaining guy is the Helix Gauntlet. And I did do this out of order. Actually, I'm doing this all out of order, but since it's the opponents that go first, in the cases of there being no chargers, they would have actually gone first. The infiltrators would have done 1 wound, and nothing came from that. So then we have obliterators, or not obliterators. We have havocs. It's a full squad with an aspiring champion. There's 1 guy left, hitting on 3s. Wounding on 4s. 2 wounds, no AP. And he might take a wound. He doesn't take a wound. So they're still tied up. That is a locked combat. There's one infiltrator and a full Havoc squad with an aspiring Warpsmith as the leader. And over here, we're at the end of the battle round. That's all that needs to be removed. There's so few units on the ground now, we're just going to jump right into turn 6, and we're going to see what happens at the end of this fight. Alright, things are moving pretty quickly now. We were able to put a super crack into the last Havoc in that unit. I fell back with the infiltrator, so now these guys are able to be attacked. So now we have the suppressors. I actually haven't fired with them yet, so I'm just going to do that really quick because I legitimately forgot. Alright. Okay, strength 8, wounding on 3s. AP -1, but it gets shaved down to 0 because of the hero. And yeah, they made all their saves. So, but they are suppressed. They're going to be -1 to hit next turn. But let's see what happened over here. Now, once we go into the Chaos Space Marine turn, which I'm probably going to do right now, because I'm here, you see where that guy fell back. That 5-man Intercessor squad ended up here. So in the Chaos Space Marine movement phase, we're going to see this guy move here and then down here, an inch away, to fire at least 1 last missile into a meaningful target. He might pop 1 Marine. And if he does, great. If not, well, he's already dead. We're just using simultaneous removal, so he's still ticking. He can still shoot 1 more rocket. These guys... Yikes. Apparently there was some structural instability. 1 sec. These guys have ended up here. And I'm going to save everyone a lot of time. He dies. The 1 missile that might go into the Intercessor squad hits, wounds, AP -2, failed save, so that's a D6 damage. So that's more than 2 damage, or more than... Anyway, he died. That kills 1 Marine, as predicted. And then we're at the end of the battle round. So we remove... So we have... at the end of the 6th battle round, we have 4 Intercessors versus 5 + 1 Havocs. And everyone else is not in a position to do much. So I'm just going to rapid fire some turns here and just see what happens between... the Havoc should win, which will turn this into a weird draw. But turn 6 technically, and I'm going to go behind the scenes for a while, do some back and forth shooting, and I'll tell you what happened. So what happened is on the Marine turn, we moved out, shot at the unit, and then charged it, because we do have a Power Fist right there. And we killed the Aspiring Champion. These guys don't really have much damage output in melee, but this guy does, and he took out 2 Marines. Not looking like a good exchange on the Marine side. They have one more chance on the Chaos Space Marine side to make that Power Fist work. But these guys are toughness 5, and they're not going to be able to dig through them. These guys did move forward for the first time because there are no targets, so they might as well move forward. These guys aren't going to run forward because it would take them a whole nother set of 4 or 5 turns just to get to the buildings. So I'm going to say they fell back. Fell back and regrouped with other Marines. So we're going to go back to the Marine turn. I might as well roll the Marine rolls live because they matter more. And normally you would wound on 2s with a Power Fist, but these guys are toughness 5 because Havocs are awesome. And screw you if you don't agree with me, because Havocs are amazing. I always run 3 Havoc squads. So anyway, the Power Fist did nothing. So then the guy with punches and kicks. And those are 2 wounds. 3 up saves. So the Marines do nothing. Let's skip right over to the Aspiring... what's it called? Whatever his name is. Warpsmith. 5 ups. Made 1, failed 1, so this dude is dead. And wouldn't it be fun if the servo arm did the last one? Nope. But then we have the Havocs piling in. Hang on. The weight of attacks is probably going to do it here. Just got to do 2 wounds. Wow. He made all his saves. Alright, so I guess we're going on to Marine turn 7. I'll come back with you after some quick stuff is done. Yep, they managed to clear the building. From here to here. And all 3 attacked, hitting on 4s because they moved. And after all was said and done, these are the armor saves. That means 2 damage apiece because these are autocannons. So 3 of these guys are down. So at this point, I think I'll charge again. I fell back with him, so I can't charge. So I'm going to try to charge with the suppressors. And 5 inches is probably not enough. That's what she said. You know what? It's close enough, and this would be cinematic. So I'm going to let it happen. They'll end up like this, and then they'll pile in. And these guys are not Gravis. They're not good in close combat, but all I need to do is just put a couple of simple wounds on these guys. So we'll see what happens. I actually have to run and check to see what the close combat stats are on these guys. I think I know based on what Primera stats generally are, but we'll find out. Okay, end of the Marine turn. The aspiring Warpsmith did all the damage in it. This is only a 6 wound squad. I love suppressors, but they die very easily. They're basically intercessors with really good movement and autocannons. So they didn't do any wounds and they died. So we're going into the Chaos Space Marine turn. Chaos Space Marines are going to just apply everything to this guy, just wipe him out. And then end of the battle round, simultaneous removal happens, and this is the end result. Now, technically, I said the victory condition was getting into the buildings, so technically we did get guys penetrating in. However, these are the only models still alive in the game, and they're on the opposite ends of the battlefield. They can't interact with each other anymore, except to stupidly make themselves vulnerable just so they can fire some last shots. But they're just not, since they're not able to interact with each other, and I think we're technically into turn 8 now. This was definitely I mean, we did get Marines into the buildings, but they got slaughtered. The Havocs they were too hard to kill. They had cover, they had elevation, they had unlimited range, uh, and this is a good example of how unlimited range might just be abusive because these chain guns were making attacks that they shouldn't have been able to make. They have a 24-inch range in the regular game, so they shouldn't have been able to reach all the targets. But 24 inches is kind of not that. I mean, like in a board this size, 24 inches goes a long way. So, I mean, another big part was that I deliberately didn't make anything obscuring except for obviously these ruins. So it took everyone took a beating going in, especially around the very end when I was getting guys to go in through this very close to the buildings. The Havocs were able to just chew through them. So uh, it was an interesting game though, and it's also, like I always say, it's good to test out these rules repeatedly and under different circumstances, just to see where the broken parts are and fix the broken parts. And in the case of simultaneous removal, I have made a lot of exemptions, and so far I think they're working pretty well. There's still a risk if you supercharge. You're not going to be able to keep that guy around. If you supercharge and you fail your hazardous, that guy's gone. He's not going to hang around till the end of the battle round. Um, and like I said, on a board this size, unlimited range, the only thing it really accomplished is it made shooting across the board really easy because I didn't have to check range every time. I'm just like, okay, these guys go, these guys go, these guys go. So it's actually sped up the game. And I didn't actually intend that to happen with unlimited range, but just by its nature, the game went a lot faster when I was rolling out shooting attacks because I knew right away what was in range and what wasn't. And mainly the only thing that wasn't in range was the Eradicators because they had melta-guns, but I didn't have any turret weapons, and the pistol weapons didn't tend to come into play until there were close range ambushes. So the 12-inch range on the pistols didn't really matter at any point in the game. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with this playtest. Unlimited range got tested, and I'm continuing to get in the habit of doing simultaneous removal. That's going to help when I actually test these rules against other people. Simultaneous removal, I have to get in the habit of doing it, and I have to get in the habit of doing it correctly because I don't want to play a game with someone else and fumble over my own rules additions to the game. So anyway, that's the end of my thoughts. Ultimately, this was a very bloody game and ended in basically a draw. Um, it would have been impossible. I was actually going to add 500 points to the Chaos side if the Ultramarines didn't win the last game. But even the forces were evenly matched, and there's an even number of models left after the game was had. So, one final thought is that this felt a little too much like a white room. People had range and line of sight almost all the time throughout this match. So I do have to work on that too. That I thought it would be fun to run up to the buildings and take fire doing so. But basically what happened was everyone died. So, um, that concludes this playtest. Not really sure what to do next playtest. I've been very busy, so I'll put it together, and I'll put together some previews that'll give you a little more details on what'll happen, because I also have to meditate on the narrative impact of this basically turning into a draw where the a lot of Chaos Defenders died, but there weren't enough Space Marines to actually do anything and take advantage of that. So we'll see you next playtest.